LGBT history in Newcastle, it's gone under a dramatic shift.
You got to remember that Newcastle was very working class. Get in there with a pick and shovel and you'll be right, mate. And here we were in the middle of it. Mind you, some of those blokes, I tell you, very well hidden, but they were there.
As a working girl on the streets at Islington, BHP Pay Week was fabulous.
I worked on the railway, word got around that I was gay. It just made everything just a bit more intense, a little bit more dangerous.
Worked in the steel industry. One older guy referred to me as a shirt lifter, which is an old term.
I used to go through books, read anything just to find some reference to homosexuality.
The closest thing you got to is like, Are You Being Served? Maybe a bit of Danny LaRue once every blue moon.
With Tarzan on television, that's really interesting guy swinging around there. It's like fascinating.
Living up in the valley, we had one man in town that was a practicing homosexual. Not sure what he was practicing, but he was a practicing homosexual.
Drag reigns supreme, always has in Newcastle. I think if a drag person's not there, it didn't happen. It just didn't happen.
Newcastle's had many iconic venues, starting with the infamous Star Hotel, which is now Bernie's.
We were very unique in the 70s to have a space where people could come, and that was accepted and had a melting pot of lots of different communities.
Romeo's, which became Piper's. The Criterion, which became the Gateway, known as the G, and many other names after that.
When you were outside of those safe spaces, the world was very different. It was very hostile, and you had to hide.
As a bisexual in Newcastle in the 90s, it was mercilessly homophobic. I wasn't ready to go plastered with rainbows. That wasn't what I was about. But I was way, way too fruity to hang around at somewhere like Fanny's. You couldn't wear a crop top, you'd get the shit kicked out of you.
There was violence just because you were who you were and you were pickable. The police weren't so nice either, really.
Because people were being killed. People were being murdered.
I grew up in Cessnock.
I grew up in Singleton. Growing up in Port Stephens, it was hard. Put your head down when you're walking past people in the street and you make sure you're not wearing anything that's too gay in a sense.
Raymond Terrace especially, it was a bit hard. I got bullied at school, like faggots, poofters, all the slurs. It made it hard because I'm just like, oh no, we're not. But obviously we were, and we've all come out and we're now all grown gay men and very proud of it.
And the ones before us even had a tougher road, and I never forget them either.
Oh, you had to be very careful. Had to hide it. Most people I knew had no idea. There was no way you could tell people. I mean, you couldn't take the risk.
The thing as you grow old, you became more and more aware of your legal liability, that you could go to jail for your desires.
Before 1984, you could actually go to jail for having consensual gay sex.
I was fired from 5 jobs on the spot because I was found out. Like, if you got found out, that was it, you were gone.
Newcastle is a multicultural, sexuality's all over the place community. And always has been. It's just probably more out now than it ever was.
We just had our 2025 Fair Day with an estimated 18,000 people turning up.
We're quite surprised at how much Newcastle love our festival.
We do have now elected trans councillors, and it's an amazing amount of progress that we have made over lifetime.
I'm glad that I went through the struggles as I did as a young kid, because if I didn't, I feel like I wouldn't have the tough exterior that I do now to be able to stand my ground and tell people if, someone was to say something to me these days, I'm not fazed by it. I'm quite happy with who I am in my skin.
This is not a secret plot by rainbow people to try and steal kids or anything like that. These are normal people with normal stories, living normal lives, who happen to be different in one fairly unimportant characteristic.
Beats historically have been around forever. They are deserted places where gay men have gone to have sex, or quite often to meet people in the absence of any other gay bar in their area.
There was no other space to engage in your sexuality, no other way to meet people. Most of the people who have used beats have often been married or deeply closeted.
You knew if you met somebody on the beat, the story wouldn't go any further. If you met people in the hotel, you couldn't say anything because you gossip. They'd tell their friends and their friends would tell other people.
And we had stories in Newcastle where family members would let the police know about the male same-sex intimacy of their relatives, because that was the culture and the times in which those people were living.
So you'd automatically meet on the beat, and you knew on the beat you were safe.
Tried to keep away from the straight people, picking more secluded places.
There were certain places where you knew you could meet people, parks or seaside, the bogey hole.
And then between Susan Gilmore and the bogey hole was this whole area of rocks with bits of beach, lovely swimming pools. On a beautiful day it was a slice of heaven. So yeah, that was a pretty big part of the scene, which sort of doesn't seem to be so relevant these days.
Of course, now we have a beach in our back pocket with a mobile phone, so we don't have to do any of that anymore, thankfully.
Actually, the attacks on beats began after the Second World War. That's when soldiers came back, and soldiers who loved the company of other soldiers, whether they were sexual or whatever, it was of great concern to the sociologists in Sydney.
My name is Dr. Justin Ellis and I'm a senior lecturer in criminology at the Newcastle School of Law and Justice. One of my main areas of research is police accountability, and this is part of a broader suite of research that I conduct into what I call digi-queer criminology. So this starts in New South Wales around 1951 with an amendment to legislation that criminalised consensual attempts for two guys to get together and be intimate with each other. So that's happening in 1951. But it's also part of this broader shift back to standardisation, to family values, and to reorder during the post-war reconstruction. So by 1952, we've got the New South Wales Police Commissioner saying one of the things we need to focus on is rooting out homosexuality.
In the late 50s and the early 60s, the police were everywhere and always tried to catch people. So everybody was very careful.
Then we have an expansion of offences, a new offence involving soliciting or inciting or attempting to solicit or incite another male to commit or be party to any of the crimes outlined in other sections of the New South Wales Crimes Act, including buggery or bestiality.
Consensual gay sex was being lumped into having sex with animals, bestiality.
If you showed any interest whatsoever in another man, that's the reason for arresting you.
They may be looking at each other. They may be building bonds of friendship at beats, for example.
So if you had longer than normal eye contact, that's showing, well, you're arrested.
The legislation by that stage had also included that police didn't have to disclose to the court how they had gone about securing the charges.
The police were actually going to beats undercover to entrap gay men.
The agents provocateur there who will come in as a gay man, beautiful gay man, and then you're a nicked mate if you show any signs of interest in the copper. And that's how it operated here in Newcastle.
The entrapment that they went through to secure the charges and potentially ultimately a conviction were not revealed to the court.
So there are a whole bunch of people who were arrested.
Maitland Jail actually had an entire wing full of men who'd been arrested just for being gay.
Well, I first encountered the yellow socks in a book called Newcastle, which described this gay gang that was around in the 50s, and I was just immediately entranced. I thought I could not find any other gay people in this town, and you're telling me there was a gay gang in the 50s?
So Keith Robinson was one of 10 men charged with abominable offences in 1952. That became known as the Yellow Socks Affair or Scandal. Keith Robinson was part of a broader police sting. And this is where we also see the police's role and the media's role in framing gang activity. We've got a range of unconnected offences, and then the local media are framing them as gang activities. And the difference with Keith compared to many of the other males that were arrested is that he was well resourced. He was a businessman, he had a menswear store, he was in a relationship.
And Keith was then at the local Chamber of Commerce and had links with the moneyed gents of Newcastle.
He didn't think that he would get a fair trial in Newcastle, and he subsequently had his trial heard in Sydney. He was acquitted of all charges, and I think the case is significant because he set an example not only to the local community but to the police and to the judiciary to say, hang on, this is unreasonable, it's unfair, it's affecting people's life outcomes, and it's not okay. So that was in 1952. And I guess foregrounds some of the human rights work that needed to be done to get homosexuality decriminalised in New South Wales in 1984.
It was falsely attributed to being the Yellow Socks Club, and we have some evidence from the people who were around at the time that there was no such thing.
It all seems to have come from one window display.
Keith Robinson, who had the menswear store in Hunter Street, one year, it was an autumn display, there was a gentleman with moccasins, jeans and yellow socks. And that caused a stir in Newcastle because that was unfashionable or daring.
If you were to talk to my parents' generation, they would all swear that they had some encounter with this Yellow Socks group. But what we think happened was later on, people actually adopted the Yellow Socks. So it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
For me, I would say that the Yellow Socks was a sign to say that I am homosexual, but police couldn't arrest you for wearing yellow socks. In '58 there was another raid, and that was another so-called Yellow Socks, and that resulted in one of the people arrested committing suicide. One of the few cases in Newcastle at least.
I remember John Charles, because I knew him. He got caught somewhere, having something to do with somebody. He was so afraid of his family finding out that he committed suicide. The night he was stopped, he committed suicide the same night because of fear of his family.
So newspapers would actually out you publicly by printing your name and address.
Publication in the Herald in Newcastle, that's peculiar here. The hundreds of cases who were arrested in Sydney didn't have their names, addresses and occupations. In Newcastle they did. One of my interviewees said for morning entertainment we'd go straight to the police notices and see who was actually arrested.
And so this intensification of police surveillance prosecution in the 50s and 60s, it continues into the 70s with, for example, the Alan Edge case. Edge is murdered. He's gay, he's a Newcastle Herald worker, it's a very Newcastle story. So what we see then is acute police surveillance of the gay and lesbian community where they are interviewing as many people as they can, which ostensibly is what they should be doing.
And had interviewed 600 local men, had fingerprinted them and taken statements. And it seemed to be just a data collecting exercise.
Because homosexuality is still criminalised and we're not decriminalising it until 1984. So we're 7 years out from that change in the criminal law.
Prior to that, people were being killed, people were being murdered. In 1978 we went to the streets, and in 1978 that was the catalyst that really started to change everything.
So the first Mardi Gras was in Sydney in 1978, hugely important, and of course Newcastle was a big part of that.
The main connection would be Ron Austin, who was the son of a dairy farmer in Maitland. He went to the Redemptionist Monastery in Mayfield. He fell in love with a fellow priest and was expelled, and then got a job in Sydney. He lived a life as a campman in Beats, got arrested, fronted up to court. It was humiliating for him. He decided to join camp in the early 70s, not long after it was formed. There was talk about having a march in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in California, and we were going to achieve something by marching in the streets. It wasn't connecting. But if we marched at night and advertised as a street party, more people in the bars would come out, and that was Ron's idea. He suggested we have fancy dress costumes and music.
Still to this day, the Mardi Gras Awards give out a Ron Austin Award for the most fabulous entry.
People often see these images of the lesbians, many of whom were from Newcastle. People like Helen were there.
My name's Helen Gollan. I'm now a retired nurse. I was fired from 5 jobs on the spot because I was found out. One job I had, which was at Lingard Hospital. You know, when we were to knock off, the charge tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You can't go home yet." I said, "I've just done 3 shifts in a row. I've done 24 hours. I need to go home." no, you have to wait. I'm sitting there in the hallway, people walked past me and wouldn't even look at me. I sat there till 10 a.m. in the morning. During the night, during the break, they wrote a 3-page foolscap letter saying the fact that they wouldn't work with such a disgusting, immoral, you name it, it was all in there, right? Simply because I was seen coming out of the Star Hotel. He read the letter out to me. He said to me, I am being requested to have you dismissed. And I just looked at him, I said, what are you going to dismiss me for? He said, oh no, I can't complain about the way you work. He said, you work harder than anybody else. Now, that was for a reason, because the fear of being dismissed or whatever, anything being held against you, I could always throw back at them. He said, I won't dismiss you. I just looked at him and I said, oh, well, thank you. I said, now can I go home? I said, I've done 3 shifts in a row, but I was just so deflated yet again.
At the same time, the same year, we've got the introduction of the New South Wales Anti-Discrimination Act, which protects homosexuals against discrimination. So we've got the criminal law, pretty much the same. We've got human rights law through anti-discrimination legislation saying, no, it's not okay to discriminate. By 1984 in New South Wales, we decriminalised homosexuality. Huge win, fantastic.
My name's Kerry Bashford, I'm a retired journalist. I used to work extensively within the gay media. I was once editor of Campaign magazine. I became politically active in the early 80s as soon as I hit the community. The big cause at that time was law reform, because homosexuals could go to jail for 14 years for consensual acts. 7 more years of being rape, I seem to remember. And that all changed in 1984, so I didn't have my first legal sex until I was well into my 20s. And of course, AIDS came right after we got the right to have sex, where, sex became dangerous again.
It was on 60 Minutes. Let's first talk about HIV or AIDS back then. And I knew someone a gay man who drove an ambulance, ringing me up, on the landline back then. He said, if I had one of those, I wouldn't take them. It's a gay man saying that about a new disease.
So it was quite a shock. I came out into this. So I don't know a gay life without AIDS. Newcastle suffered terribly as a result of AIDS. There was no buffer. In Sydney you could have someone dying from that social circle or from that social circle. Here we were all the same social circle. And people were going to a funeral in the morning and going to the South Chapel for a funeral in the afternoon. So there was that intensity, that immediacy, that much going on in people's lives. People died without their families and friends knowing that they were either gay or had AIDS.
So I heard a little bit more about it. Then I heard that ACON was opening up in Islington. I went and knocked on the door and I said, can I volunteer here? And after I think about 5 or 6 months, I got employed doing care and support for people with HIV and AIDS. One of our volunteers, Randy Cooper, he set up Karima and they supported people with HIV and AIDS.
I can't remember Newcastle ever being more organised, ever being more community focused. Extraordinary stories like McKillop House.
McKillop House was a step-down centre for people with HIV and AIDS who were just unbelievable to our community.
My name's Annie Laurie and I'm a sister of St Joseph and I work with people with AIDS. I first heard about AIDS through the newspapers and it was damning and horrible. It was an awful time in our society that we could be so condemning. Put me in conflict about who we are as people. So I decided that it was time to speak out and do something about it if I could. I went to our congregational leader and put it to her. I said I wanted a few nuns in a house. So we started looking for a few nuns in a house. And so we found the place, Old Carrington Convent, and the diocese donated it to us rent-free. So we did the house up and made it a safe place for our people with AIDS. We lived with them. We used the same utensils, we used the same laundry, we used the same bathrooms. We were one with them And that was very frowned on by society because they became our untouchables. Where for us, they were our brothers and sons and fathers, and they were loved by family and friends. There were objections from the church because of the fact that it was homosexuality. If you wanted to get really into the God stuff, you could say, you know, you're created in God's own image and likeness, and so that stopped the conversation then. We worked with the hospital, social workers, the doctors, and the good example is when the earthquake happened and the Royal Hospital was almost collapsed, and we took all our patients over to McKillop, and so we had strips hanging from nails on walls and mattresses on floor. It's quite scary to be dying, and I think it's important to have people with you and not die alone, holding their hand or just letting them know you're there. Traumatic and sad, but there was the flip side where they gave us happiness and laughter and joy in their storytelling and trusting us.
Another problematic area for the queer community is mental health services, because for most of the 20th century, doctors classified homosexuality as a disease.
Torturing people just because they were different.
I don't remember, because I think I've blanked it out, basically, but I don't remember how I ended up in Watt Street the first time. I was very, very, very male looking. For the psychiatrists, they just, they loved that, because their thing was, we're going to change you. You'll be straight and you'll be pure and you'll be cured, because it was a disease, and it was in the DCM-4 written up as a disease. They would schedule you, which meant they could hold you, they could medicate you, they could put you in cells, which they did with me, because I would fight them. I would fight them. I can remember being put in a straitjacket. They would give me formaldehyde. Now, formaldehyde is no longer used, thank God, but it's a very powerful drug that would knock you out. It was so powerful that you couldn't put it in a plastic syringe. You had to put it in a glass syringe because it would melt the plastic. To this very day, this hip still hurts from where the formaldehyde used to be injected. There were so many hours that they could hold you for before you went to the panel. They would either take you off being scheduled, or they could prolong it. And I think from memory, they could go up to 3 months. You couldn't just lock somebody up in high dependency nowadays, just like that. And they also have to know what their rights are. None of that was given to us. We knew nothing. The other tool that was used was ECT. They put electrodes on your side of your head, and they would turn it up and give you so much voltage, and that would happen over a series of days. If everything else failed, they would use a lobotomy. That's where they cut part of the brain out, which is the part of memory. You don't know who you are, you don't remember anything, you're a walking zombie. And my very best friend, her punishment was a lobotomy. And she had a carer. The woman used to bring her to the pub because she knew I'd be there, and I'd sit there and get her a beer, or a shandy really, and hold it so she could suck it out of the straw. And somehow or other, even though she didn't remember, she sort of remembered, because I just talked to her. But eventually, of course, she died. And she died of a broken heart. I believe she died of a broken heart. I was heading down that same pathway because they couldn't break me. They just simply couldn't. They did everything to break me, and they couldn't.
I think drag is important to the community because it belongs to us.
Drag queens and kings are the entertainers of the gay community, of the LGBTQI plus community. They entertain the people and they create a culture of safety and also, I guess, fun.
It's expression. It's letting that little boy that was running around in the playground play with dresses without being made fun of.
We're also there to test boundaries and try new things, but at the end of the day we all come together and make sure that we're all one loving people and group together.
G'day, I'm Lou Thunderdust. I'm a drag king here in Newcastle. It is acceptance for everyone and anyone in this place to have a good time, sing, dance and connect as a community. It's incredibly fun.
Dressing up as someone else made me comfortable with my body. No one would know who you are as a boy. You can have this whole other life. My partner, he started doing drag and he felt so much more comfortable in his own skin.
My sister would always kind of dress me up in her skirts and like little things, and you know, I loved it. I loved like dancing around the house and being a prissy little sissy boy. When I was a child, I always wanted to be a clown. So obviously I'm a drag queen, so I'm kind of halfway there.
I think the general public has a bad view of drag in that they think every guy that throws on a frock and a face and everything and does drag wants to be a woman, which it's just so far from the truth.
My name's Ashley Mahole. I'm a drag queen of Newcastle and I am a 27-year-old boy. No, I'm not. We're gonna just cut that. Sorry, darling, I'll do that again. I'm a lady.
Hello, I'm Molly Poppins. I am a drag queen from Newcastle. You might have seen me on a little TV show called RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under. I'm known around these parts as the tits of Newcastle. So there has been some, you know, big names to come through Newcastle, like Timberlina.
Verity, who also was severe. There's Chanel Detroit, she's very important. JD, who was all the way through Pipers.
And Victoria Better. They're all incredible local performers.
Another one is Jojo Zaho. She was on RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under Season 1, my Down Under sister.
Seeing Jojo on RuPaul's Drag Race was amazing, incredible. I had a little tear, I'm like, oh, I'm so proud.
And of course one of the judges is Waratah local Reece Nicholson.
There's very few queer iconic people to come out in Newcastle, and he has to be the one, honestly. So when he got announced to be the judge on Drag Race Down Under, we were like, a Nova Castrian on RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, that is a big deal. Met Reece on Drag Race, connected over Newcastle. Talk about like, oh, what about this club? Or like this, or do you remember this? Do you remember this?
He's funny, he's awesome, got beautiful looks.
I think he's a year older than me. I'm like, I'm a younger lady.
And it shows that like Newcastle isn't somewhere to just play with, and you know, look at the stars that they're bringing out, and hopefully I might be the next one.
You can't talk about drag in Newcastle without talking about the original stars, Glenda and Stella.
Glenda Jackson, RIP, she is a legend and always will be.
She's all show tunes and glamour and beauty, and Stella was more edgy. She had a very definite idea of drag, performative rather than tits and feathers. So both of them there, it was really fabulous watching them perform.
For me, I was only young, so it was eye-opening. It was like, wow, this is fabulous. That's what I want to do.
Glenda brought a different side of drag to the community. So vibrant and glamorous, and it showed a lot of people a different side of drag queens. I met her when I was 18 and she mentored me, and still to this day, whenever I'm on stage and I'm not smiling, I just hear her voice in the back of my head saying, smile, actress, actress, and always makes me laugh.
In the early days, Glenda and Stella used to perform at the Orient in Watts Street, which was a popular hangout for local police.
It seemed that the police at the Orient liked them there, and they performed on the bar. That was basically Glenda and Stella. For some reason, and they believe it was that they were going to sell the Orient, that the police said, we're going to show you a new place. And they took them down to the Star Hotel, which was run down. The Tyndalls were the licensees of it. When the police told them that they were drag queens, they didn't know what they were talking about. One of them collapsed on the floor. So it was a surprise to them, and obviously not discussed beforehand.
I've got a syndrome called Turner syndrome. I was diagnosed with it when I was very young, and they had actually told my parents that don't worry about it, she's going to be dead within a couple of years and she'll never amount to anything, so don't worry about it. One of the characteristics of Turner syndrome is male features. No one was convinced that I was female. By the time I got to 14, went down to Sydney to visit my cousin, and she was the person I came out to. And unbeknownst to me, my auntie was over listening. And I caught the train back to Newcastle. I got off the train, came home. Mum was on the blower to my auntie, who had rung her, to inform her that I was one of them. She said, "You're out of here. You're gone. You can't stay here." The woman who I was madly in love with at the time, she knew it, but she was straight. She said, "Get in the car," and it was a blue V-dub. She double parked in front of the Star Hotel, and she said, "Get out." I said, "But that's a pub." She said, "Yeah, that's right, get out and go through that door. That's where you belong." I walked into the Seaman's bar. One bloke said, "Oh, you don't belong in here, mate. Keep going." Another bloke pushed me through another door, and I ended up in the middle bar. And as I walked through that middle bar, when I first walked through the door, they slapped me on the back and said, "Welcome, Butch." And I'd never heard that before. And someone threw a schooner of black in my hand and said, "Get that into you." And that's where it all began.
My name's Laurie Bell and I worked at the Star Hotel. I started in the back bar, never poured a drink in my life, and I did it perfect. After that, he put me out in the gay bar. From there on, I just got to know them, love them, work with them, and be friends with them for the rest of my life. And I never had such a good life until I met them. They taught me everything I know. They did, they taught me everything I know.
They had their problems, but it was much like today where everybody mixed together, which was really wonderful.
There was 4 bars, there was something for every walk of life. Didn't matter who you are, what you are. There was something there for everybody because there was music in the back and there was the gay bar and then there was the Seaman's bar out the front.
It was full of so many characters. We had the drag queens, we had the butchers, we had the gay boys.
Hippie chicks, bikies, you got seamen, all in there mixing together, and it worked.
I mean, this is the same Star Hotel that had the riot, and they also had a drag bar?
It was just so exciting to see the girls all dressed up.
The only place I ever felt safe at that time was in that middle bar, because it was home, it was shelter, a place that you could go without being harassed by the outside world.
It was like a party. Yeah. The whole hotel was like a party.
Glenda and Stella were my saving grace. They knew that there was nowhere else for us to go. They were protective, and they were almost like mothers when our mothers had abandoned us.
I lived with Stella twice. She was fabulous. I'd come home from work and she'd have dinner ready and everything, and I'd have me dinner and run back to work, just to do me washing and all.
I had an entrance fee to this little showroom. I could afford to pay for costumes. And buying costumes for a man who is dressing as a woman, it's not so simple.
Stella was tall, and this night some bloke come in and he was being an idiot and yahooing, and Stella just took off a feather boa, handed it to Glenda and said, "Hang on to that." And she went over and she went bang. And he fell down, she went back, got the feather boa and so kept going.
The butchers sometimes would muck around and rough each other up a bit, but it was all for fun, all for play. And in some ways, I guess it was pruning your feathers for the femmes, you know. Did I say that?
When Don Graham come there, it was his first hotel, he really got into it. He was a good publican. A lot of people didn't like him, you know, he didn't take any rubbish. He'd put you out if you did the wrong thing, and they all used to badmouth him because of that.
Then Donnie had a change of heart. I don't know how he became such a homophobe, but he became a homophobe and he pissed everybody off from the start.
Don kicked everybody out of the middle bar and then went and published this awful ad in the newspapers.
That broke my heart when that happened, because they were my friends. I didn't know whether to stay in the Star Hotel or to go with them. You know, I felt bad staying there, but I had to work. You have to work.
In the late 80s, it was hard for lesbians to meet other women, and the possibility of holding a women's dance was raised. The location for that very first dance was actually the Sacred Heart Church, St Aloysius Hall in Hamilton. Women's invisibility is just so real that we could hold a first dance in a convent operation because it was really a bit of a covert operation, which is a wonderful play on words. The nun with whom I liaised thought it was very nice, possibly a bit unusual, but very nice. Look, it went off swimmingly. Many lesbians attended it. It took place in different venues. Concurrently, the idea of a magazine or a newsletter for lesbians came about, and we were tossing around for names. No Frills was mentioned because there weren't any. The very first issue was in September 1988, and it had a history or a herstory. It advertised upcoming events, articles on issues of relationships, sexuality. One of our members was able to bring Alex Dobkin, aggressively active feminist lesbian from America, to perform in Newcastle, which was such a coup. Well, looking back, I'm amazed actually. But yeah, there is pride that that had happened in Newey.
Well, we're Andrew and Bill. Years ago, we used to be known as Mr. and Mrs. White Trash. I'm Mr. White Trash. And
I'm Mrs. White Trash.
A lot of people didn't know our real names. They just knew us as Mr. and Mrs. White Trash.
Originally coming to like Piper's, Romeo, the Star Hotel back in the 70s. Yep, I knew. But then I ended up getting married to a woman. We separated nearly 40 years ago now. Then we met. So we've been together 35 years now.
So when I met Bill in 1990, he also brought along 2 kids, 5 and 10. And after a year or so, I've never been interested in having children until then. I got clucky because I've got these 2 new people in my life. So we decided to have a child, and we had it with another couple. So after he was born, we decided we'll get family health cover with us and him. So we applied to family health cover with NIB health funds, and they sent a letter to us, a couple of letters saying no. They'll cover me with him as a family, but not us as a family. And we thought, well, that's not good enough. So I think it was the 1st of December 1993. We sent a letter to the Anti-Discrimination Board saying we've been discriminated against. They wrote letters backwards and forwards to NIB who would not conciliate. So in 1995, it was referred to the Equal Opportunity Tribunal in Sydney. So when we got to the court, we were dressed up, we had yellow ties, jacket, yellow socks, walking along Elizabeth Street, and we held hands.
Yeah.
Well, they got on the front page of the Telly Mirror, as we called the next day. It made the front page of the Newcastle Herald. It was huge news. We thought, oh, this is bigger than we thought.
Yeah. When we won, ruling was handed down that they had to provide the health cover to us, and we also were awarded damages. The National Health Act was changed through federal parliament that no health fund in Australia can discriminate against same-sex couples. The Landmarks Gallery at the National Museum in Canberra has got an exhibition of all the significant events from Captain Cook's arrival up to today, and our NIB is part of it.
Newspaper banner, which we've got from Carrington Newsagent back in 1995, and it's on permanent display. Yeah. Opposite us is Don Bradman's Baggy Greens, and next to them is Far Lap's Heart.
Another area that's been hard for our community has been church.
Churches haven't always been great with our community, but we also have Adamstown Uniting Church.
So I'm Rod Pattenden. I used to be the minister of the Adamstown Uniting Church. So I was about 19. I was at art school, which is an unusual place to be, to hear a call from God. And I got very involved in the church and found that I was a good leader. And then I thought seriously about dedicating my life to that role. And I got myself married because that was the right thing to do, to a very assertive woman. So we have 3 children. So I have 3 adult children, and I'm a grandfather. So it was a a midlife crisis that confronted me with the reality of my sexuality. Adamstown Uniting Church were looking for a minister. It was a bit of an adventure to test out whether that would be a good step for me, but they were so welcoming and they really saw in me the gifts of creativity which they were looking for, except that I was gay. And so that really required them to think very carefully whether they wanted me. And then they decided, took a vote, and about 15 or 20 people left the church because they didn't want to have a gay minister. But the ones that were left, they really welcomed me and loved me, and I had, in all the 10 years of the time I had no conflicts. And there was a sense of pride. We've got a gay minister. We're pretty cool. And the church got very involved in quite a number of social justice issues, such as refugees. So I was very careful in my leadership not to focus on gay issues. And in fact, I really didn't venture into that area until I had some of the members of the congregation saying to me and to the leadership, well, what about us queer folk? This woman said to me, you say you're welcoming, and I've been waiting 4 years to come to your church because I wasn't sure I'd be welcomed. As a lesbian, I have had so many experiences of coming across the threshold of the church and being rejected. And someone over my left shoulder said, we need to paint the front steps rainbow. But that became the conversation. Are we actually welcoming? Are we going to put our flag up? Are we going to make a public statement? And so the decision was made, we're going to paint our steps rainbow. So it happened 2 weeks before Christmas. Looks like it belongs, and I think we're the first church in Australia to have done such a thing. And so it became a story that went viral. For 10 minutes, we were famous, like, oh my goodness, there's a church in Newcastle. Oh my goodness, it's Newcastle. Well, you wouldn't expect it. The roof didn't fall in, and apparently no one's graves were turning over, and all went well. It came time for me to retire, and you do that because you're getting tired. I'm really grateful that Greer has taken up the role, and my goodness, under her leadership, things have just flowered.
So my name's Greer Hudson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the minister at Adamstown Uniting Church. I definitely had crushes on both boys and girls in high school, but I'd say the knowledge of my sexuality has been an evolving thing, and that my attraction isn't about gender, but is about the person. So I identify as pansexual. My dad was a minister growing up, and also turns out he's gay. So he came out about 20 years ago. So for the last 20 years, it's really been a non-issue for me, faith and spirituality. I knew of Adamstown, and I knew of the Rainbow Steps, I knew of Rod's ministry, and I knew that this was a community that was passionate about being inclusive, not just as a word they say, everyone's welcome, but they actually lived it out. They said to me they wanted someone who can take them further. We have been becoming more vocal on social media about who we are and what we believe in. And whilst our church supports that without criticism, we cop flack. Christians around the world will get on our social media and try and tear us down and tell us how we're not Christian, we're not true, avoid any church that has rainbow anything. And so that's a struggle, you know, that wears away. Recently in June, we celebrated Pride Month. So we had 3 weeks of church services that were focused completely on pride. We talked about pride, we talked about how pride is an alternative to shame. We talked about the Bible verses that people use as clobber passages and misinterpret to say that the Bible says gay is wrong. And we looked at passages in the Bible that are queering and queer affirming and say who we are is God's creation. I'm also on an assembly panel, which is the level of the church at our national level. It's called Pride Circle, and we are intentionally seeking to help churches around Australia to continue on this journey. How do we make our liturgy more inclusive? It's a really rare Sunday that we don't have new people walk through our doors. So we have pretty much every letter of the queer alphabet represented here, and people come in and they feel it. They know immediately that they are welcome, and all are not tolerated but celebrated.
Queer bars and gay bars have always held a very specific place in our culture. that doesn't translate to straight culture at all. It's the place where you come in and you unmask and you just see them taking off all of the layers and putting on their true selves. It's where we host funerals. It's where we host celebrations of life. We get people coming in to talk about health and concerns and safety, and we party and we dance, and it's all together, all in the one space.
When it comes to gay spaces in Newcastle, unlike Sydney, there was often only one place you could go to.
Beach Hotel, particularly the saloon bar, was all the most interesting people, but also journalists and people like that. It was owned by people who had sideshows.
I came out into the Criterion, which became the gateway and the barracks and a few different identities.
I think the Criterion is more like a normal pub, so to speak. It didn't have that glamour.
You'd have all the people who were thrown out of all the other bars, and there'd be bikies there, and it was quite a mix of people.
And the dress code was tight jeans and probably flannels.
Yeah.
None of this glittery stuff that came out later.
Drag shows, they were on a tiny little stage in the corner.
You would have all the hoons driving past, throwing things, yelling obscenities and whatnot. And every now and again, they'd pull up and you'd be quite fearful. And we used to lock the doors and lock ourselves in while, you know, these idiots were around. Because if you rang the police, they'd never come.
Big Beat up the road is Linton Park, yes, and that was the area that the original street workers started. Doors wouldn't open for me to make money and get on and make a living of some sort. It was something that I enjoyed. I suppose I might have put myself in danger a few times. I got through it, and here I am where lots of girls didn't. They were bodies. So, yeah, that's a pretty rough life, that one.
When the pub shut, we would go to the wine bar in Hamilton, but it was the risk of getting from one venue to the other. It was always look out the door before we took off. And
the wine bar went through several name changes. Was the wine bar, was Bernie's, Centurion. It was a couple of nights a week. The weekends were really busy. Lots of multicultural backgrounds who often slide both ways, just to put it nicely. We brought drag shows in. It was the non-professional girls. We'd bring a platter in, make huge nights of it.
then there was Romeo's, which later became Piper's, and you could go there till 3 a.m. in the morning. And we moved from there up to what was the Ambassador nightclub when that closed. So we moved into that building, which was just amazing because we suddenly had this huge venue, great stage, and the amount of people you could put in there, and very exciting time. Piper's ran from early 80s through to early 90s.
Everyone go there and feel safe and secure, and they had the multicoloured dance floor from memory, and they had shows, and you saw people that looked like you.
I'd never seen a drag show until I went to Piper's, so that made me aware of drag, and in fact a drag queen was performing on stage the minute I walked through the door.
Piper's through the 80s in particular was a real growth period for the community, and our lifestyle as far as going out went, and we were getting into the house music and everything, but we only had local drag shows. We needed more, we needed something. As owner-manager, I took it upon myself to go to Sydney and find other shows and bring them to Newcastle, and that worked very well.
You would get these amazing drag queens from Sydney that would perform in Sydney on a Saturday night and then come to Newcastle every Sunday night. So some of the iconic lay girls performers like Monique St. John and Simone Troy would come to Newcastle on a Saturday night and perform alongside Glenda Jackson.
It just grew, the shows grew, the crowds grew.
There were often fights later, sort of on the Piper's doorsteps, and they'd shut the door to stop the fight.
Our security guys had that advantage of being on the stairs because a lot of guys come along. Let's go, you know, find the fags and...
Gangs of blokes, 18, 19, 20, looking for trouble.
The boys could keep them out, or at least at bay on the stairs. And the same thing, you'd rarely get the police arrive if you rang them, or it would turn around and somehow be your fault.
It's always been a contested and tricky space, the relationship between the community and police. As someone who owns a space, we have a very unique relationship with police. We treat them as associates and acquaintances, of people we have to work with professionally. There is tension. There is people watching them and watching us watching them.
Today, with Newcastle Pride, you've got gay liaison officers, so they're pretty good. They'll send people along, like Fair Day, we'll have police walking around just to make sure we're safe.
In the 90s, queer people felt safer to go into other spaces.
Uptown Circus, Ziggy's, Castanet Club. After Piper's, I was looking for something easier, and I took up a job at the Wickham Park Hotel working behind the bar. And after a time, I became manager of that bar. The Wickham Park became the girls' pub. Over time, that just became so big, so popular. We used to do a lot of events out there, beach parties, jelly wrestling, all those crazy things. Focused quite a lot on female performers. A dedicated space for girls is really important. Safety issue for one, and the Wickham Park just became home for the girls. It was extremely popular.
So when I was a fresh, young, baby-faced 18-year-old, my first gay club was the Gateway, also known as the G. It was trashy, and in the best way possible. I was still living in Raymond Terrace. Me and my friends would come in, you know, we had to get like a $70 taxi. A bit overwhelming, we didn't really know anyone, but we were like, can finally, you know, be ourselves, have a bit of fun.
After the Gateway closed, there was this gap. Unity tried to fill it for a little bit, which was located at SJ's, which was actually an old lesbian hangout.
It made me comfortable in the gay scene because everyone came, the straight community came, and I was like, oh, I'm not afraid of straight people anymore.
People like the Veronicas and like Mel B and stuff. You know, having one of the Spice Girls like at a gay club in Newcastle, it's kind of iconic.
So Newcastle has had one bar usually, and then in 2019 when the G closed, there was nothing, and there was no spaces like this for 4 years.
Thank goodness there have been so many local legends like Timberlina who have put on events like Blush, Queer and Now. It all ended up being pop-up events where, you know, we'd be upstairs at the Gal, the Gallipoli Club.
I even had some shows at 48 Watch Street for drag babies, so we like kind of really had to make our own space for a while there.
And then COVID hit, and we all spent a couple of years just sort of waiting for something to happen. I'd had in my head before COVID the idea of opening a venue of my own.
That's how Bernie's Bar came to be, and in the historic location that was the Star Hotel.
I'm Grace Frey, I'm one of the founders of Bernie's Bar. I grew up in community. My mother was married to a woman for over a decade. I had a great aunt who lived in Newtown who, you know, had a friend. And then I've got raising children who are also part of the community. The Star has always been a really important place in our community's eye. It's the ground zero for our community. After the 90s, the building sort of fell into a bit of disrepair. When we found out that the venue was actually up for sale, we pitched it to her. We pitched Bernie's and said, this is what we want to create. Our community is desperate for a space. We'd love to talk to you about it, and would you consider taking it off the market and leasing it to us? And she said yes. And then we said, that's fantastic, because we're doing all of this on credit cards and stuff, and we don't have a deposit, and you're still cool with that, right? And she, to her credit, said yes, we could do that.
In 2023, almost 4 years after the G closed, Newcastle had a gay venue again.
Like that.
Look, if Bernie's is a pub, it's a pretty strange one. I don't think there's pubs or clubs that are hosting gender-affirming makeup classes. From time to time, we have a life drawing class come through. They do BDSM and fetish-style life drawing. There's a lot of spaces that are uncomfortable with them even giving it a go.
When we were looking at what Bernie's is, we named ourselves after the earliest version that we could find, and that was Bernie's Bar, which dated all the way back to the 1920s in Bernie's Grocer, and it was somehow connected to the community around it, like beats and that sort of thing.
Kit and Pat and Grace put so much love into this place that how could it not work? Yeah, it's brilliant.
People come in and have their first experience there and just know that that's part of a lineage that goes back so many decades, that people can come in and they have their awakening.
Bernie's for me has been absolutely life-changing. It's the first place I've ever done drag. Having a breakout here gave me the confidence to try drag and have a go. It's just been glue for our community here in Newcastle.
Bernie's is a really good place for me. It's a way that I can, express my authenticity, put on a pair of boobies and have fun, and be safe. This place gives me that.
Now this gay bar sign lives at the front door, and if you can't walk past a sign that says gay bar without giggling, move on, mate, it's not your bar. At the moment, when the world is fairly divisive, having a flag planted at the front door with that sign signals that there's been huge progress in the way that people can be publicly the type of people they want to be. 30 years ago, I would be at extreme personal and bodily risk to even be associated publicly with a venue like this.
My name is Rome and I've been involved with Newcastle Theatre since I was 5 or 6 years old. All around the world and for hundreds of years, the theatre has been such a safe space for queer people, and Newcastle really is no exception.
I grew up in Windale. I was growing up as a Mormon. Oddly enough, in the Mormon church, they are very much into showing your talent. So they actually encourage people to go up on stage and perform and do things. So I'd started doing that. When I was in year 7, I went to Young People's Theatre, and that opened my life up, unbelievably. I found my tribe, and I also found out that the person I was becoming was perfectly fine to be.
My identity as a trans person is super important to me, and YPT really helped me feel safe and assure me in my identity, because before YPT I had never really met any other queer people. My mum has a gay friend, but that's the extent of it really. And being at YPT helped me feel so safe and so valid and so real, kind of.
Theatre gives people a means of being totally accepted. It allows you to be free, and it allows you to be yourself. And that's very important, because in allowing it to be yourself, that then allows you to become other people on stage. And it's actually really nice if you're playing a gay man to be a gay person yourself, so you get it right. These days there's a great little company called Barefoot Theatre Company.
Barefoot Theatre is a theatre company founded by Riley McLean, who's also the artistic director of YPT. It's a jumping off point for new queer playwrights in Newcastle. They're telling queer stories by queer actors. I think it's really, really valuable to Newcastle.
They are very community orientated theatre that wasn't here when I was young, and probably wouldn't have happened in Newcastle in that era.
It's really refreshing to see Newcastle, which used to be this really conservative little mining town, turn into this place for acceptance and love and queerness, really.
Newcastle Pride was founded in 2018 by Leanne McDougall and Ivan Skanes. At that time, there were no venues for the queer community. They put together a fair day, which was in Foreshore Park, crossing their fingers and hoping that, they get a few hundred people or something.
Well, we were blown away that, there was about 5,000 people at the first fair day.
Now it's grown into a month of events.
We started with the Short and Curly's queer screen films.
We have our Queer Youth Formal, and that's for the kids who don't go to their formals because they can't take the partner that they want to along. And we also do drag story time, which is a very contentious subject, but I see it as no different to having the clown dress up for a party. And they love it, and the mums love it.
We just had our 2025 Fair Day with an estimated now of 18,000 people turning up. It was a great day of inclusion and diversity. People that do turn up to this day and our festival are not only just the LGBTQI+ community, it's the wider community.
I think that's our purpose really, is to bring the broader community in and have a better understanding of the queer community.
It does feel like Newcastle is changing, and I don't think there's a better example of that than Newcastle councillor Paige Johnson.
I'm Paige Johnson. I am an engineer, I'm an activist, and I'm also a councillor here at the City of Newcastle. I happen to be the first openly trans woman elected to public office in New South Wales. In hindsight, it was pretty clear that I was probably someone who was trans when I was about 4 years old. And I never told anyone about how I felt because I thought, oh my God, I would be bullied so much. Even into high school, I sort of noticed that as well. It wasn't until 8+ years later that I actually came out. Back then, Julia Gillard was the Prime Minister, and I saw all the great things that that government was doing when it came to like progressive policy and how that can make a real difference to people's lives. Then when Tony Abbott got elected back in 2013, it was a day and night contrast, and it became pretty clear to me that when it comes to politics, you can choose not to be too interested in it, but you can't choose not to be affected by it. When I turned 18, that's when I made the decision that I wanted to join the Labor Party. Around that time, as momentum was building in the context of marriage equality and the campaign for that, local government was something that I became increasingly passionate about, particularly when the 2021 campaign was on. That was after the point I'd told my closest friends that I think I'm probably trans, and I was in the early stages of beginning to affirm my gender. Everyone in my workplace was so accepting, so lovely, so perfect about that. All my friends were so lovely, and my family was lovely. The last thing was to put up a post on social media to sort of say, "Hi guys, I'm Paige." My friend had taken some lovely photos of me that I was going to share with that, and I was about to post it, and I just hovered there for like so many minutes, just with anxiety rushing over me. And then I finally clicked it, and I remember just exclaiming to myself, "I'm free." I feel so free. It was important to me to make it clear that I was running to be elected to council as a politician that just happens to be trans, rather than as a trans politician. For that, I obviously needed to get the pre-selection of the Labor Party members, and basically I sat down and had 100 cups of tea with 100 people. I didn't actually get barely any transphobia. Like, I remember going to look to see if anyone was saying anything, and I think like maybe I found like 2 comments on an Instagram post, and that was basically it that I encountered. The campaign was great, it was lovely, and it just sort of shows the type of city that Newcastle is.
So there's a lot about Newcastle, about how far we've come, especially in politics. A role model for people who are like, I can do that too.
I'm doing what I can here at the City of Newcastle to try and celebrate that and promote that. On Trans Day of Visibility in March of this year, for the very first time ever, we raised the trans flag on top of City Hall. That is now the policy of the city that we'll do on the 31st of March every single year going forward.
In 2025, being gay in Newcastle feels like it's normalised. You do see those same-sex couples around. Where we live out in the burbs, we go out to the Iron Horse pub, rough as guts.
We go to Cardiff Bowling Club and go to the raffles. The manager comes up, shakes our hands, "Hi guys, how are yous?" And
I think it's been an ongoing narrative in Newcastle for decades now that anyone who was gay or creative or different or anything that wasn't mainstream Newcastle had to move to Sydney. So now Newcastle is becoming more and more of an outpost of outliers who will come to a place and create culture or stay here.
We also see it with the same-sex marriage survey results for the Newcastle federal electorate. 74.8% of people in the Newcastle federal electorate voted yes for same-sex marriage. That's the largest vote outside of Sydney for yes.
The young queers now, like, they're completely accepted. They come out, they run amok, honestly. I think what is left to do is just make sure that we don't go backwards. You know, like everything that's happening in the States right now and what's kind of happening, trying to happen here, we just got to make sure that that doesn't happen and we continue to progress forward, because we have come a long way.
The trans and gender diverse community in particular, they've sort of become a little bit of a scapegoat for the world.
If you don't understand it, it's way easier to hate it, kind of thing. And I think being trans is really difficult to understand for people who haven't lived that experience, and especially people who aren't willing to try to understand.
And we don't want to be going back to the 1950s with this recriminalisation of different forms of sexual orientation and gender identity, because we can see the decades of harm that can have.
I can live fairly openly, but I still can't walk down the main street of Newcastle hand in hand.
Every weekend, there's still plenty of people who scream past in the cars and yell slurs.
I don't think any of us are backing down or stopping from reaching our highest levels or reaching our highest peak in life, and just proving that we're loving, we're caring, we're not here to hurt anyone, we respect everyone, and we want to show love.
Never stop fighting. Because all this could be taken away with a stroke of a pen. It doesn't matter what colour you are, what religion you are, what background you come from. Don't ever allow anyone to tell you any different. You are who you are, and be who you are, and stand up for yourself. And if someone's been denied that right, and they're not so able to stand up for themselves, stand beside them and offer help.
Glenda was my best friend for 50 years. I'm going to cry, I'm going to get upset now. 50 years. And I was with her right until the end. When she was sick, I took her to the hospital when she couldn't drive her own car. And I had a little Corolla, and he used to always say, can I swear? He used to always say, why don't you buy a bigger fucking car? And I said, I can't afford it. So when he died, a solicitor rang me up and said, Glenda's left you $20,000 and he wants you to buy a new car. So I bought a new car, and I've got little stickers on it, you know, in remembrance of Glenda, and I feel every time I get in that car she's with me, you know.